to call the
Is your,
meeting to order for the Environmental Commission for,
is your mic on?
oops, no. This one there. All right, why don't we call the meeting to order for the Environmental Commission for May 9th, 2024. Should we do a roll call?
Yes. Commission Vice Chair O'Connor,
Present.
Commissioner Parker, Commissioner Switzler,
Here.
Commissioner Bruner.
Here.
Let the record show that we have a quorum with 4 commissioners present, Commissioners Wick, Novi, and Commission Chair Kramer absent.
And I've received a text that in about 10 minutes, Commissioner Wick should appear. All right, would somebody like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I will do it. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are there any changes to tonight's agenda?
Yes, there's one change. Gianna Lawrence is unable to present on the CBIN, so she will not be here today.
All right, thank you. Any oral communications tonight?
No oral communications.
All right, thank you. Then it looks like we go right into presentations. No, let me see here. So we go into approval of the minutes. Anybody like to make?
I would like to move to approve the minutes from the April 11th Environmental Commission meeting.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Were there any nays? No nays. On the agenda, I don't see any informational items tonight, so we'll go to action items. And that is the draft ordinance. And I believe Crystal and Madeline, is that being presented by both of you? I'll turn the floor over to you. We did. There was one.
Real quick, we do have a speaker regarding this item. I do not recall if you speak before or after. After, okay. Okay.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Madeline Wampler, and I am the Sustainability Analyst with the Sustainability Division, and I will be presenting Item 8A, Proposed Green Building Ordinance 2024-04. Also supporting us remotely tonight is our consultant, Misty Bruceri, from the REACH Codes team. So she's listening in and will be able to help with the Q&A portion. The recommended action tonight is to approve a recommendation to City Council to adopt ordinance number 2024-04, proposing municipal code amendments which modify the current California Building Standards Code related to energy efficiency and green building. On November 18th, 2020, City Council approved an interim update to the Climate Action Plan, which includes measures that required decarbonization of new residential and commercial buildings. The most recent greenhouse gas emissions inventory, completed in 2023, revealed that natural gas emissions was the 3rd largest source of emissions for the city, behind transportation and electricity. Targeting natural gas emissions from buildings can help the city get one step closer to meeting its goal to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 44% by 2030. One way that the city can reduce natural gas emissions is through building REACH codes. The California Building Energy Efficiency Standards and California Green Building Standards sets statewide energy conservation standards to promote energy efficiency and reduce energy costs. The standards are adopted every 3 years, with the next coming in 2025. Local jurisdictions can adopt building REACH codes, which increase the building code requirements above the state code efficiency standards. These can be adopted at any time and must meet the California Energy Commission's cost effectiveness standards. Since updating the 2018 Climate Action Plan, the city has adopted a series of REACH codes related to green building and energy efficiency. Most notably, in 2022, the city adopted an ordinance that required newly constructed buildings to be all electric. Similar regulations were adopted by the city of Berkeley in 2019. However, in April 2023, the Ninth Circuit Court ruled that Berkeley's gas prohibition was unlawful, stating that the Federal Energy Policy and Conservation Act preempted the local all-electric ordinance. In response, Encinitas City Council passed a resolution suspending the all-electric requirement and directed staff to evaluate alternatives to decarbonization. Finally, in January of this year, the Ninth Circuit denied Berkeley's appeal, solidifying the preemption ruling, and Berkeley announced it would repeal its all-electric ordinance. In response to the outcome of the Berkeley case, staff have been working on a new ordinance in alignment with the latest court ruling that will still encourage building decarbonization. Identifying this alternative approach would advance the city's progress in meeting its climate action plan goals. And with no foreseeable statewide approaches for all-electric requirements, local action is key for further reducing greenhouse gas emissions. In addition, since suspending the all-electric requirement, about 35% of single-family and 50% of multifamily permits proposed natural gas construction. This underscores the need for an alternative approach to incentivize all-electric construction. To develop the new local REACH code, staff first identified a variety of REACH code options. This involved research and regular coordination with the local REACH codes team, who guided us through the evolving regulations and ordinance development process. Then we conducted outreach with internal stakeholders, including the city's building official, development services staff, and the city attorney, and consulted experts from other cities and external stakeholders to help further refine the ordinance. After we refined the ordinance, we made sure it aligned with the most recent cost-effectiveness study, and now that we've finalized the draft, we are ready to take it to City Council for adoption. After adoption, we must obtain approval from the Energy Commission and file it with the Building Standards Commission. During that time, we will continue outreach and preparation for implementation. And before I dive into the details of the proposed ordinance, I just wanted to give a really big shout out to the statewide codes and standards program implemented by PG&E, SDG&E, and Southern California Edison. Misty Bruseri, Nilda Snoo, and Jeremy Reef have played a crucial role in developing this ordinance through their expertise and collaboration. All right, so in the upcoming slides, I will dive into the details regarding proposed ordinance 2024-04. So here's an overview of the three key components of the proposed ordinance. I'll first discuss the proposed energy efficiency requirements for residential new construction. Then I'll go over the electric readiness requirements also for residential new construction. And then I'll wrap up with the minor administrative updates that we included in the ordinance. The first component of the proposed ordinance is related to increased energy efficiency. Staff have chosen the high-performance REACH code approach for advancing energy performance in residential new construction. This approach exceeds the state code for energy performance, setting uniform energy standards that apply to both all-electric and mixed-fuel homes. This approach provides a strong mechanism for encouraging electrification while also providing grid and emissions reduction benefits for projects that still choose to have gas appliances. It does not prohibit or penalize gas technologies and therefore is in alignment with state and federal law. And lastly, by incentivizing the use of a certified energy analyst to document compliance, we will promote transparency and accountability in energy reporting. The cities of Santa Cruz, San Luis Obispo, and San Jose adopted a similar requirement last fall, and many other cities are considering a similar approach. So now I'll dive a little bit deeper into these proposed energy performance requirements. The proposed REACH code requires higher energy performance for new construction than the state code. This is achieved through compliance margins, which measure how a proposed building's energy performance compares to a standard building constructed to meet minimum code requirements. A higher compliance margin indicates a better energy performance. The proposed compliance margin for single-family buildings is a 4.5 reduction in the energy design rating, or EDR1. For low-rise multifamily buildings, the proposed standard is an 8% reduction in the time-dependent valuation, or TDV. This requirement excludes small single-family dwellings less than 1,500 square feet, high-rise multifamily structures 4 or more stories, and non-residential buildings. Analysis concluded that for these building types, meeting the requirement may not be cost-effective. So how can buildings meet these compliance margin requirements? All-electric designs would require few or no additional efficiency measures, while mixed-fuel designs will require more significant efficiency measures, such as a battery, thereby incentivizing all-electric construction. Both compliance margin standards are cost-effective, and analysis has shown that the all-electric new construction is the most economical compliance option. And in the next few slides, I'll provide some examples of how new construction can meet these requirements. Shown on this slide is an example of a single-family home that meets the minimum state code requirements. This home has rooftop solar PV, a heat pump water heater, and a high-efficiency gas furnace. The gas appliance is shown in orange, and the electric heat pump appliance is shown in blue. This slide compares an all-electric home on the left to a mixed-fuel home with gas and electric appliances on the right. Homes with a margin of 4.5 or higher would be in compliance. So beginning with the all-electric house on the left, this example achieves a compliance margin of 5.9 by adding additional rooftop solar PV to offset 80% of electricity usage, along with high-efficiency heat pump water heater and a high-efficiency heat pump space and heating cooling system. In the example on the right, the mixed fuel home meets the requirement by adding even more solar PV to offset 100% of the electricity use, and extra attic insulation, efficient air distribution, compact water heating distribution, a high-efficiency heat pump water heater, and lastly, a high-efficiency space heating or gas furnace, achieving a margin of 4.8. This comparison demonstrates how fewer efficiency measures are required to meet the proposed compliance margin for all-electric construction. The electric case requires 3 measures, while the mixed-fuel case needs 6. And this is just one example of many compliance pathway options. But ultimately, if someone chooses to have gas appliances, many additional measures will be required, which can be costly in comparison to the all-electric design. The second key component of the proposed ordinance relates to electric readiness requirements for residential new construction. These requirements apply when a gas appliance is installed instead of heat pump technology. While the state code already has some rules about electric readiness, the proposed requirements will make it even easier for buildings to switch to all-electric systems in the future. For single-family homes, the ordinance proposes electric readiness requirements for heat pump space heaters to align with the draft 2025 efficiency standards. And for multifamily buildings, the ordinance proposes readiness requirements for individual and central water heating systems, also in alignment with the draft 2025 efficiency standards. The final component of the proposed ordinance includes some minor administrative updates, such as adding a certified energy analyst definition to support the high-performance REACH code language, removing definitions and code sections related to the former all-electric requirement, clarifying electric vehicle charging requirements for non-residential additions and alterations, and lastly, reinstating the adoptions by reference, which were previously omitted unintentionally. In summary, the proposed ordinance aligns with federal and state law, promotes energy efficiency, and encourages the transition to all-electric buildings while offering flexibility for mixed-fuel construction. It represents a balanced strategy to achieve greenhouse gas emissions greenhouse gas reduction targets while ensuring compliance and technical feasibility. And as I mentioned earlier, other municipalities have already adopted or are considering this approach, which signals a broader support for this approach across the state. So to wrap up, the recommended action tonight is to approve a recommendation to City Council to adopt ordinance number 2024-04, proposing municipal code amendments which modify the current California Building Standards Code related to energy efficiency and green building. This concludes my presentation, and we're available to answer any questions.
Thank you. And just for a point of clarification, do we listen to public speaking before we engage with questions?
Yes, so we have one speaker, Harold Stanfer.
That is this on? There. A lot of information condensed in there. I guess first I would start my comments by saying that it's extremely disappointing to hear again about the action of the Ninth Circuit. Personally, I think it's a mistake and a setback to the work that we're trying to do to decarbonize our world. Having said that, I'm here tonight as a citizen of Encinitas. Been living here for 12 years, active in the Sierra Club and some other environmental organizations, and I strongly recommend and wholeheartedly support your approval of moving this forward to City Council next week. I think it's crucial under the circumstances. It's probably the best that we can do. Feeling an all-electric requirement, so I believe that it should be moved on. Thank you.
We do have another speaker. Kelly Linden.
All right, I arrived just in time, so thank you for allowing me to speak. You may recall I gave a presentation to this body last year on induction cooking. I volunteer with a number of organizations to equitably accelerate climate action, and including as the co-chair of the San Diego Building Electrification Coalition, a group of over 40 organizations throughout the region that support the transition to clean energy. I'm thrilled that Encinitas is considering this high-performance REACH code, which promotes energy efficiency and encourages all-electric buildings. This approach aligns with federal and state laws because it offers flexibility for mixed-fuel construction. As you may know, the state of California is proposing to phase out the sales of gas water heaters and furnaces in 2030 in order to meet the state's ambitious climate targets. This means when equipment fails, these gas appliances will no longer be available to purchase. By supporting your community to encourage all-electric construction now, you'll be future-proofing the buildings and saving homeowners time and money. So this is yet another example of Encinitas as a sustainability leader for the region, and I thank you for moving this forward.
Thank you to both speakers. I guess we'll open it up for.
You want to start now, Greg?
Oh, open up for questions. I have one, and I was curious. It was slide 15. It was the comparison between the all-electric home and the mixed-fuel home. And is it because of costs that one or the other is incurring to go to those levels of percentage of improvements? Why better insulation wasn't included in both? It looks like mixed fuel, there's a more robust insulation in the attic and not so for the electric, and why you wouldn't just have them both be as robust as possible?
Yes, thank you. Excellent question. This slide just provides one of many, many possible options to comply with that compliance margin. So we could have, or this home on the left, the all-electric home, could have installed additional attic insulation, for example, on top of other efficiency measures to bring up that compliance margin. So this is just one example. That could have been done. And likewise, for the mixed fuel option, we could have perhaps not had the extra attic insulation, but another efficiency measure such as a cool roof or something that would have achieved a similar efficiency. So
Okay,
just for
so-
demonstration purposes.
Okay, and it's just to try to get to those numbers, whatever combination it takes to get there.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I had a quick question. Maybe you said it and I missed it, but is this ordinance intended for just for new building, or is it for like major remodels and new building, or what was
Yes.
the scope?
This ordinance applies to new construction only. To touch on the second point of your question about major remodels, the city does have a definition for major remodels where greater than 50% of the, maybe you can touch on that. One sec.
Yeah, I don't know the number, the definition exactly off the top of my head, but it is roughly, if you're going to remodel 50% of your home, it would trigger the new construction.
Okay.
It would be considered new construction.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I had a couple of questions. First one is just a definition. I don't know what compact water heating distribution is. I haven't heard that before.
Yes, I figured I might get that question. So that is a strategy where you are essentially placing all of the plumbing or appliances that require hot water into a more centralized location where that hot water does not have to travel as far in the home. So you're improving efficiency by requiring less energy to heat that water more to have it travel farther, if that makes sense.
Okay, thank you. My second question is the exclusion of the 4-story and above multifamily homes, as well as the smaller, less than 1,500 square foot homes. And I don't think we're going to have a whole lot of 4-story buildings in Encinitas. I don't know about that, but we're trying to get a lot of ADUs in. And so what is the difference in cost with the smaller, especially the smaller homes?
Yes.
And why, how bad did it have to be to exclude it?
That's a great question. I think I might call in Misty if she's still on the line to answer that. She's our expert with the cost effectiveness study. Misty, are you able to hear the question?
I am, thank you. And good evening, commissioners and other attendees. I did hear the question, and the exclusion is actually a little bit more based on the technical difficulties for smaller homes to meet the same margin as a larger home. And so rather than the cost issue, the way that the code is structured, I don't want to get into too much nuance here, but the way it's structured, it makes it a little bit more difficult for smaller homes to exceed the code. Basically, they have less savings, and so they get less credit. And so what we found is that the really small ADUs and those smaller homes will have a lot more difficult time to achieve the same margin, and I think that was counter to the encouragement of those small homes.
So you
to
can
make it too hard.
You can do it, but it doesn't. The savings isn't that much.
It's not enough to move the compliance margin enough to make the same margin as the other homes, right?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and you have to do more measures to make that happen.
Thanks, Misty.
JP, do you have a question? Oh, yeah.
Hey, thank you, guys. So Carol covered most of mine, but how many units, do we know how many units fall under these exclusions? I mean, we know kind of like the starts and how much land we have available, but is that a lot of units?
So I'll touch on the first exclusion, which is the less than 1,500 square feet. We are currently receiving a lot of applications for small dwellings, including ADUs. Mm-hmm. So the reality of this approach would, we wouldn't be able to capture those dwelling units. And, I would say in terms of the single family dwelling building class, those probably make up almost 50% or more, 50% or more of those permits that come in. As far as high-rise multifamily, I don't know if maybe you can touch on that in terms of new construction. I know we're a pretty built-out city, so those would be far fewer, but I'll let Crystal speak to that.
Yeah, the ones that would fall into that category would typically be our housing element sites that are allowed to build more densely and taller. So any of the housing element sites would that are planning to do more than 3 stories would be excluded as well.
Okay. Because it seems pragmatic. I just worry about how much effectiveness we're gonna have here.
Yeah.
Other question I had was, we had a presentation from a young man, an intern, I think that was last month, about,
Nick Ryan.
is that related to this, where they were discussing a proposal for the, rebates on electrical appliances? Is that moving forward too? Is this connected to this? What's the?
It is connected, but not intentionally necessarily. So with what we presented last month, we proposed revising our green building incentive program to incentivize all-electric construction and provide a $2,000 and permit expediting process. So that actually pairs really nicely with this REACH code where, if we want to incentivize, not only are we incentivizing all-electric construction with the REACH code, but we're also providing, through the green building incentive program, a financial rebate if someone wants to apply to that program.
Yep. So that proposal is like a thing now, whatever you want to call it?
The subcommittee met earlier today, and that is moving forward, and we're hoping to bring that to council later this year.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I had some questions on the EV requirements. Do those not apply to multifamily? Did I read that right?
I believe you're referring to the minor administrative updates. So we currently have existing in our REACH code today EV charging requirements where non-residential additions and alterations of a certain size require 8% of those parking spaces to have EV charging. Multifamily, I don't believe have the same type of EV charging requirements, although I'm blanking on that at the moment. But
I didn't think so when I was going through it
I do
because
have
single
that.
family has like the readiness. But I
Yeah,
don't think there's anything for
single family,
multifamily.
it's a readiness requirement for EV charging. And then for multifamily, I believe it's 15% of multifamily, or it might be 8%. But there is
Okay, so
some sort
it's
of requirement.
8 for non-residential, 8% of spaces. But I don't think there's anything for multifamily as far as I saw. I was just curious if I was reading that right.
Well, if you were just looking in the agenda packet for tonight, you wouldn't have seen it because we're not proposing any changes to that part of the code.
Got it.
So it's not one of the sections that was included here. The clarification that's being provided for the EV charging is related to the non-residential portion, where we realized in practice there was a bit of confusion about the language, and that's what we're trying to clean up to make it more clear to applicants. So
Okay.
no real change in what we're applying, just more clarity.
Okay, I think I understand that. Yeah.
Okay.
And to add on to that, our existing ordinance for for newly constructed multifamily and hotel motels, at least 15% of the total number of parking spaces provided shall be electric vehicle spaces. That's the current code as written.
Okay.
So again, you wouldn't have seen that in the proposed ordinance for tonight since we did not modify that code language.
Got it. That's probably the cause of a lot of my confusion then. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Any other questions?
Sorry, so you just raised a question for me. So you said 15% electrical vehicle spaces, but with chargers or just spaces for them to park?
At least 15% of the total number of parking spaces provided for all types of parking facilities shall be electric vehicle charging spaces.
Charging spaces, so they'll have like a level 2 charger or something. Okay, thank you.
All right, so if there's no more questions, any discussion, or does anybody have a recommendation that they would want to try to introduce at this time to see if a modification is necessary, or?
I guess on that line, question or recommendation. So when folks, as our citizens pointed out, that it's likely that California might outlaw these gas appliances, when people submit ADU permits, do we have a thing suggesting, hey, there's incentives and hopefully incentives soon, and that suggesting that California could outlaw gas stuff and you push them towards the electric stuff, even though you can't mandate it? I don't know if you're allowed to suggest anything, but.
Currently, when anyone submits a building permit application to the city, they are required to fill out a green building checklist. And on that checklist, we do have a section from our previous all-electric requirement where we say, we ask them if they voluntarily want to meet our all-electric requirement, and we point them towards more information about that. Beyond that, we don't necessarily push for it besides just education on our website, and we would do that with the incentive program once that program is fully developed.
Cool.
Anyone else? All right, anyone like to make a motion in adopting ordinance?
I move that we adopt draft ordinance 2024-04. And
So if I could just make one recommendation, that the motion would be to recommend that council adopt
Okay.
the ordinance. Yeah.
I move that we recommend that council adopts the draft ordinance 2024-04.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Were there any nays? All right, passes.
Thank you.
I didn't bring my readers. Where are we here? Number. Really? You let me, oh, you're too kind. Oh my gosh, crystal clear. So that brings us to 8B is going to be a review of the current work plan. So I'll turn that back over to Crystal. Oh, thank you so much. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Vice Chair O'Connor. So as per the regular, I will be going through the work plan updates for this month, and feel free to chime in if there's any updates you'd like to provide additionally at this time. Let me make the screen a little bit larger. Okay, and let me show you the screen. Okay. So this is your work plan with the status on the far right-hand side. So upcoming events for Encinitas are Cyclovia. All the updates, again, are in red as a reminder. So Cyclovia is on May 19th, and EcoFest is coming up on June 2nd. So both these events will happen between now and your next meeting.
Can
Under-
I
oh,
just
go ahead.
add that on Tuesday the 7th at the Farm Lab, BCK had a showcase of all the local schools in the area, and I attended. And I know you and some city council members attended, and those young people were absolutely impressive with their projects and their ability to explain exactly what they were accomplishing in their projects. That was the future looks good.
I agree, that event was great. They're so adorable. Okay, project number 2, which is the Environmental Awards Program. So this year's awards administration is all wrapped up. So the awards were selected, or the winners were selected, and the awards were presented at the April 17th council meeting.
Can I just make a comment? So I attended the city council meeting, and I just want to say, that our work here is, to do the awards was actually when you see the people that are getting the awards and how much it means to them, and their families were here, and it was really heartwarming. And so I just want to, reiterate that it really is a good thing that you guys are all doing. So thank you so much.
And I understand it was, the mayor gave a little talk, and then each of the other council members actually took one of the categories and presented it to the winner. And then, I'll just say my absence was pulling in the parking lot of family medical emergency at my son's house, and I had to zip over there, and unfortunately, everybody's fine. Everybody's fine, but, yeah, family first, always.
All right, so jumping to Project 3, I actually didn't have this highlighted in red, but just wanted to mention for the native plant policy that has been under discussion at the council level, and it looks like they're considering whether they might include it in the budget for next fiscal year. It's still undetermined, but there have been some discussions. And then I'll just skip down to the next project that has some activity from the last month. So the next project is project number 7, and that's the 5-year cap update. So the subcommittee for this item met on February 29th and April 15th to discuss possible revisions and additions to the cap. We had some good discussions there. I think there's more discussions to come, but we met and talked about some of the cap measures and some ideas for adding additional cap measures there. I will note, I don't know, Commissioner Parker, if you wanted to mention the tree canopy discussion that we had about, or, yeah.
Yeah, so I have been trying to get the city arborist to give more information about, so that we can move forward with developing a tree canopy goal for the city. And sustainability manager Najir had talked to Ryan Allen from DUDEC, who is our city arborist consultant. And they discussed, some ideas of what's going to happen in the future, but it would need funding for this. And Crystal's idea of putting this into the cap I think is a very good one. And so it probably has the best chance of getting funded, and so that we can move forward and establish a tree canopy goal for the city. So I'm very happy that Crystal's gotten this, and I think that it no longer needs to be on the work plan if it becomes part of the cap. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you for that summary. So that kind of covers multiple projects here and then kind of bleeds into our next item on the agenda as well. So a lot happened in that arena, and I agree with Carol. I think it's a good approach to integrate it into a plan that we already have existing in the city and something that's being actively implemented. So I think it would live in a better place there and have better structure to get worked on and get funding to get developed. So
to remove it, do you have an estimate when the cap would absorb it into it? Would it take another month to have it just disappear?
Yes. Yeah. So the process would be actually tonight in your work plan is when it would be kind of removed from your work plan, and then when I bring a future item to you to review the cap measures that are going into the updated climate action plan, that would be a time when you would want to make sure that we've captured that appropriately in that list of measures. And then that would be kind of, the transition would have been made kind of at that point. And ultimately, when council adopts the cap, then that's when it would be official. So.
Thank you.
So we've really covered project number 8 as well with Commissioner Parker's summary. So I'll just go ahead and skip down to project number 9, which is the Green Building Incentive Program. So as you're aware, we proposed the revision. Staff has been working on the revisions and presented them to the Environmental Commission at your last meeting on April 11th. And then here I said the subcommittee plans to meet in the near future, but we actually did meet this afternoon. So we've had one meeting, and we've gotten some good ideas from that meeting to incorporate into the program. And the next step would be to present the revisions of the program to the city's upper management, and then with their concurrence, we would then go to city council or actually what we'd want to do is formally come back to Environmental Commission and get a formal recommendation, just like we did tonight with the prior item, get your formal recommendation to go to council for the revisions, and then take that to council. So you'll likely see Madeline back again, because she's working on that project, in a couple months to kind of more formally go over those revisions and get your concurrence to take it to council. And then project number 10 is regarding the fleet idling policy. And what happened this past month is the subcommittee reviewed the current policy and considered the city's EV fleet conversion plan. And they're looking at possibly recommending that this project be omitted from the work plan, because it seems like the policy might be robust enough. And in combination with the plan to convert to all electric vehicles for the city's fleet, it seems like eventually this policy might not even be needed in the future anyway. Then jumping down, project number 15, that's the food service plastic ordinance. So on this one, you guys have had a lot of activity this month. The subcommittee on this one met with EDCO and city staff on April 15th to discuss options for amending the ordinance to be more aligned with the capabilities of the anaerobic digester. So there's still some discussion happening, and EDCO is reviewing some ideas and is going to get back to the subcommittee with some possible options. But that work is in the works as well. And that concludes my update on the work plan. And if anyone else would like to add any additional updates, you're welcome to do so.
All right. Go ahead. None. Then I guess at this point, we approve this work plan for this last month. Anybody wants to make a motion to approve?
I move to approve the work plan for May.
I'll second.
All right. All in favor? Aye.
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 Any nays? No nays? All right, work plan
Okay,
is
great.
passed.
So I'll jump into the calendar, just an overview. So we are in May, and upcoming in June is when, so at tonight's meeting is when you'll adopt, hopefully, the recommended work plan. Cyclovia is coming up on the 19th. And then in June is when the Environmental Commission, usually it's the chair and the vice chair, would take your recommended work plan to council for approval. And then EcoFest is on June 2nd. I did want to bring up coming up in July. So typically, what we've been talking about is having a summer recess for your commission in July. But I did want to ask if we could possibly reschedule that or possibly still meet, and here's why. So tonight I had intended on bringing you the next, the set of cap measures, the draft cap measures for the cap update, and unfortunately they weren't ready in time for your meeting. But to keep that project moving along, I would very much like to bring that draft set of measures to you for consideration at your July meeting. If it's not a good time, we can push it to August, but if possible, I would like the commission to meet in July. So if you'd like to consider it and vote on it tonight to whether or not to hold the July meeting, I would very much appreciate it.
To clarify, would that be July 11th?
Oh, good question. It would be.
Yes, it would be July 11th.
Thanks,
Anybody-
Maria.
I will be
anybody-
gone
Okay.
on vacation.
Anybody else absent that they know?
Support.
Yeah, I'm happy to meet.
July 11th? I was just looking at my calendar. Yeah, I'll be in town.
All right, we have a quorum who can
Plan
attend
on
that meeting.
Okay. Thank you so
It's-
much. I
it's-
appreciate the
all right.
accommodation.
As simple as that, no motion, no vote.
If you could, I guess if you could motion to
All right.
hold the meeting, I think that would be,
I think
Sure.
Katie, Commissioner Kramer's back too. She's just gone today.
So anybody
I
want to make a
believe so,
motion
yeah.
to have a meeting on July 11th?
I'll make a motion to have the meeting on July 11th.
All right.
I'll second.
All in favor?
I,
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays?
thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, so that concludes my overview of the calendar. And with that, I think this item is completed unless there's anything else.
I have nothing else. All right, we'll move on to item number 9, Commissioner-initiated action items, and that is the work plan again, the proposed one for the next 2-year cycle. So,
And traditionally, it's usually the folks on the subcommittee that introduce this item. If anyone from the subcommittee wanted to give a little bit of a summary of the discussion that you had in the subcommittee, and I'll pull up the work plan and you can kind of talk through
I'll do that.
some of the proposed changes if you'd like.
I don't remember the date we met, but Sustainability Manager Najera and Commissioners Wick, Kramer, and myself met and looked over the current work plan. And based on the things that we just saw from the last presentation, a few of them can fall off. We looked at them to see their rating, low, medium, or high, and that's what impacts staff time. And then we had just a couple of discussions about potential from the three of us as to what might be new, and even in reprioritizing what we can do is, because of the nature of the staff hours, is have 2 of the high ones in an active working mode amongst all of us with staff. And then the other ones that would be high would fall into just a category pending completion of one, or an early completion, or if something happens to where it drops off, we can always bring those back up into the active file. So that was agreed upon by the subcommittee. And so, JC, did you have anything you wanted to add? Did I miss anything about our meeting?
No, I think that was fair. Just a bit of a consolidation and reprioritization. I'd say no major material changes to
Yeah.
highlight.
And if you'd like, I could go over the items that were removed and the items that were added, or proposed to be added.
Not that font's too small for my eyes
It
right
is pretty
now,
small.
but-
Yeah, let me make that bigger.
That'd be better if you did it anyway.
And
They're your notes. so.
Crystal, question for you on the 16 and the Bee City and the plastic one, I think. So this is the result of your wordsmithing? I think you were,
Yeah, to add the commitments,
okay.
to the Bee City commitments, to make it a little bit more detailed, so it was more clear what that one entails. Yeah,
Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
I was just reading it. Thank you.
yeah. So I'll start from the top. So there were a couple that were removed because they're actually complete now. So evaluate and adopt the recommendation for council to consider a citywide no smoking ordinance. That was completed. An ordinance was adopted, so that's been taken off the list. And then the next one is to review and provide recommendations for the draft updated general plan safety element and associated climate vulnerability study. And that also has been completed. So those were removed. The next one that was removed was to evaluate and recommend a city tree canopy goal. And as we just discussed in the last item, that would be removed here, but really what would happen is it would be added to the cap update project. So that's how that one kind of got shuffled around. And then the last one to be deleted is evaluate. Actually, there's 2 more, sorry. They're evaluate and recommend strengthening the fleet idling policy. And again, as I mentioned in the last item, the subcommittee have discussed this policy and are feeling like it's no longer needed, or not that the policy is not needed, but the project to evaluate and recommend strengthening it is not needed. So recommend deletion there. And then the last one is to evaluate and make recommendations for the monitoring and reporting of the integrated pest management program. So the reason for, or justification for deleting this one is that a lot of the work for this was done in under the last work plan. The subcommittee here met with staff and got a good understanding of what the city's IPM program is, and felt comfortable that it's strong and being followed. And then what the proposal from this work plan subcommittee was to move that effort to more of an educational effort to the community, and where that would nicely fall under is your project for Bee City USA. So under that affiliation that we have now, there's a set of commitments, and one of those commitments is to reduce the use of pesticides. So we already do that as a city at our own facilities, and so what we would additionally be doing through Bee City is to be promoting the community to reduce the use of pesticides on their property as well. Unfortunately, we can only do this in a voluntary way. We can't regulate it. It's a matter of federal law. But what we can do is educate the community about it and share some ideas and alternatives with them. So that's where that one's landed, kind of just a new home there. So those are the ones that are deleted or shifted. And then I'll go over the 3 new ones as well, or the few new ones. I'm not sure if there's 3 exactly. So all of the ones are the same up to 14, and then 15 was amended somewhat to read, evaluate and recommend amendments to the food serviceware regulations, EMC Chapter 11.27, to align with the state's organics diversion requirements. So that's in reflection to Vice Chair O'Connor and Chair Kramer's interest to revise this ordinance to as it states, align it with the state diversion requirements. So that one's been modified. And then the Bee City USA project has been strengthened. Prior to this, the action or the project was to become a Bee City USA affiliate, and the city now is a Bee City USA affiliate. That happened last cycle. So now it's been modified to say fulfill Bee City USA affiliate commitments, including establish a committee, create and enhance pollinator habitat, reduce the use of pesticides, incorporate pollinator conscious practices into policies and plans, create a website, and post signage. And then there's a couple more. There's another page. So there's 3 new ones here that were added as a recommendation by the subcommittee, and I'll read them as follows. So it'd be project number 17, which is to evaluate and recommend amendments to the environmentally preferable purchasing and contracting policy. So that's an existing policy that the city has. It's an internal policy on how we make purchases and do our contracting. And I shared with the subcommittee that this policy is fairly old and could do for a refresher and a review by the commission. So I offered that up as a possible project, and it sounded like they were interested. And then the next project would be to expand the smoking regulations, which is EMC Chapter 11.08, to include multifamily housing. And then the last project would be to expand the plastic bag regulations, which are EMC Chapter 11.26, to include additional business types and bag types. So each of these is fairly significant. It involves either a modification of a policy or an ordinance that has to go to council for approval. So that's a fairly significant amount of work for staff. So each of these was identified as having a high level of additional staff time required. So as Mark had mentioned at the beginning, unfortunately, we wouldn't be able to do all of these in the 2-year cycle of your work plan. Feasibly, staff has a capacity to do 1 per year. So you've got 3 here, and you've got 1 high one that's still up in your original projects here, project number 15. So among those 4, I would ask the commission to select 2 that you'd like to do within this next 2-year cycle, and then select 2 that you'd like to put down on a pending or a as time is available list.
All right. Any discussion on that? I'll start with this, the comment on the food service where Commissioner Kramer and I've probably got a good 6 to 7 months of work so far into that in this last work cycle. So I would highly recommend to keep that energy and effort going. The high level meetings with EDCO and staff and stuff are already behind us. So it could be prepared pretty soon to be reviewed by us and then a decision made if it should go to council or not. So I would recommend that one staying up. And then I'd like to hear from everybody else on the other 3 of which one other one would pop up to be in the potential of being worked on in this cycle. Any ideas?
I was just going to recommend that number 18 be put to not be during this cycle, not be high staff time requirement. And then I'm very unclear on number 17 of what we would do as a commission for that. So.
Yeah, I can elaborate a bit on that one. So as a commission, I think it would be great to hear your input on how we could improve upon the policy. It's an old policy, and I know you're all experts in environmental and all things environmental. So getting your input on kind of improvements and modernization of that policy, I think would be really beneficial. Of course, there would be some staff involvement as well, but if I'll give you one example. Let's see, there's one section relating to requiring all new city facilities that are built to be LEED or Build It Green certified. And from my perspective, I feel like those certifications are, while they're fantastic and they're definitely environmentally focused, they're not as focused on energy efficiency and emissions reduction as I think they could be. So one thing that we could possibly add to the policy is to require that all new buildings be built all electrically. And that would be in alignment with our CAP and some goals that the council has to reduce emissions. So that's just one example, but there's several other components to the policy that I think could do for a review and possible updating.
I had a little one too that kind of triggered it was going down the 101 are all the light green, earth-friendly dog poop plastic bags. And I'm not sure if that's the best choice. There's other alternatives out there. And so there's already been one discussion with staff over on the stormwater side that manages that. And they're going to engage purchasing staff to see, so it'd be products like that, what kind of cleaning products, what kind of bags, what kind of, everything the city uses is the state-of-the-art best that can support the environment. So some products like that would be considered too in this, I believe.
Yeah, it spans everything from pencils and paper to concrete and asphalt for city projects. So it's pretty all-inclusive of a lot of the work that the city does and the things that we purchase. Yeah.
And then any more on that 17, because I was going to talk about 19.
It seems like it would require a lot of education on our part by you or your staff.
Yeah, I guess that's part of the reason why I recommended that it be listed as a high level of support from staff. Yeah, and I could guide you through some of those technical details and to be able to get your input. But yeah, it would be a fair amount of work on staff's part as well.
And I was going to mention 19, the state right now is entertaining the idea of getting rid of the thicker film plastic bags. It's still being successful through the legislature. So number 19 could be pended down below the active line for now, and then as things happen at the state level, if it fails at some point, then it could be evaluated by us if it should be moved back up, if there's staff time allows. So that's a high I'd recommend to keep low or non-active, or active but not staff time.
Yeah, and I was going to second Commissioner Parker's recommendation on 18. Of course, it would be nice if there was that, but I think there's an uphill battle there. So, and we already made some progress, with the last work plan on the other smoking regulations. So 17, I think, for me, try and make a dent in that. Like you said, the plastic bag thing, I think we hold off on that. And then you guys already have a lot of momentum with the food service ware. So I'd say keep that and 17 up above.
Yeah, and then in defense of 18, it does seem that the city did bite a big bite of the apple with the public smoking, and maybe a little time should pass. And right now, Carlsbad is doing this exact same multi-unit housing.
That's right.
And it would be good to monitor what happens there, what pros and cons or things happen, and that will take time.
Yep.
So
We don't want to end up with a Ninth Circuit rejection.
yes.
of that.
So at that point, when that's done, if there was time, I would recommend getting 18 up at some point, but I think some time can pass for a few reasons.
Agreed.
I was just going to add, I think 17 sounds high impact as well. If we're talking about electrifying city facilities, and you mentioned like concrete and asphalt, those are very carbon intensive. We can have a say there. I think that's like a really good place we can target. So
It would be leading the way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. So do you need a motion then to which two or which one of these,
Yeah, if you could motion to just clarify which ones would, I guess the easiest way to do it is which two you'd want on the pending or as time allows list, and then the remaining would be in your main work plan.
All right, I'll try to make that motion to have item number 15, which was the food service ware, be in the active side of what we do, and number 17, a new one about purchasing to be moved up, and to pend 18 and 19 as soon as time allows, if something gets done in time, to be evaluated which of those two at that time would be most likely to move up.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, any nays? All right. So do we want to go through this again? Because there were some blanks left in that of the subcommittees. There were some not three commissioners. Do we want to try to tackle that at this
yeah,
time?
that would be great.
I think
Thanks
it's
for
on the
remembering
agenda,
that.
right?
Is I don't have my glasses.
Work plan
I'll keep
assignments,
blaming
right?
it on that.
Here, so let's start at the top. And yeah, really, all of these are up for reassignment if you'd like, or you can keep them the same. So you can have up to 3 commissioners for each project, and just let me know where you want me to, guide you down the list. But I'll just leave it up here for you to see, and then feel free to discuss.
And I take it it's not important. You'll just bump everything up to number 4 will be where 6 is.
Yeah, I'll clean it up with the final version that goes to
that's not-
council based on your direction tonight.
All right, so as we roll down, if anybody wants off of a subcommittee, now would be the time to see if one of our peers wants it. And if we go down further, I see an opening at number, I think it was 8, if you go up
Oh,
just
sorry. Or 9, oh,
6,
6, sorry.
mobility update, and that's, we're waiting for something to happen with another committee or internally, is that correct?
Yeah, that's being worked on by staff, and we'll bring it to the subcommittee and or the commission when a draft is available for review. So not a lot that subcommittee needs to do per se for that one.
I'd like to fill out the third, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anybody else? Okay. And it looks like if we go down to number 9, that's the green building incentive. Anybody interested in rounding that out? And we have 2 commissioners absent, of course, so we can do this again next month or next time we meet. So it's okay if we don't fill it now. 11, sand compatibility.
Can I ask a clarifying question? In terms of the staff time, how important the medium or versus low is in terms of the priorities? I understand the high, but.
So I can share with you the difference in my mind. So low to me means that there's not a lot of my staff time involved. So let's go back up to another one that's a good example is the mobility element update. So another division has been directed to do this work on the mobility elements, and it's been directed by council. So in my mind, that's already directed work. And what the FAR column, the high, medium, low, indicates is how much additional staff time, usually that's my staff time, that would be created by having these work plan projects on your work plan. So for me personally, for my staff incorporate or involvement in the mobility element update, there's not much for me to do. So I would consider that low. Whereas for the climate action plan update, my involvement is greater because I'm the staff lead on that one. So there would be more of my involvement. There would be more involvement in terms of subcommittee meeting. I would expect that there's going to be several subcommittee meetings. We've already had 2, and there's probably going to be at least a few more. So that's why that one's more of a medium. So that's just a couple of examples. Does that help to clarify?
So a number 11 seems like that would be low, wouldn't that? Because we're not really doing anything on that.
Well, you're not doing much now. It's not very active, but if it were to become active and the subcommittee did want to meet and start evaluating and recommending improvements, that would involve some of my time to coordinate with the other staff members that are part of that program to help come up with recommendations for change or discuss recommendations for change. So that, in my mind, does involve a little bit more effort. You know, even though it hasn't happened up to this point, if it were to be active, I would say that it'd be more work than, say, the mobility element.
So I bring it up because number 12, which is the zero waste education, I would like to spend more time on that. And so I don't know if for this 2-year plan, we increase it to medium?
For 12?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would make
that
sense
possible?
to me. You make a good point that there could be a fair amount of staff time involved in kind of increasing the level of effort that we put out for education. So, yeah, I think
Switch it.
Even though that would roll over into the stormwater.
it would roll over to them, but since that would be additional work that's not already been budgeted for, I would see that we'd want to capture that here in the work plan, even though it's not me specifically.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I still feel like 11 should be medium, but I do see your point about 12, and I would say that could be bumped to a medium too. I don't think it would necessarily change whether can stay on the work plan or not, but I think it's a good point that it's probably a medium. So I'll make note of that.
And it might also be how we drive it. I know personally I've seen the sand that comes out of the lagoons underneath the freeway put on our beaches, and it's absolutely filthy, full of contaminants, and then deep sand out of the deep bottom of the ocean that's just brought up is actually very nice. So if you start pushing those buttons, it might create more staff time.
Yeah,
So
I agree.
all right, then we go down to, where are we? Which one did we leave off on? Number 14, I think, it's kind of a placeholder right now. 15, if anybody's interested in the food serviceware, working with EDCO and staff on that, but that is rolling along. And then that's full. And then these, do we want to do that now or number 17 for sure? And that's the who would like to be part of the preferred purchasing contracting subcommittee.
I would.
All right, there's one.
I would as well.
There's two.
If other people don't want to, I'm willing to do it.
I was going to say I'll put my name in there too, partly through some of the other things that I do with Surfrider and products and best products. But I'd be willing to, and we're absent to commissioners if they had a real desire to bump. And then the other 18, do we need to fill those now? But I would champion 18 when it's appropriate. If anybody else wanted to
It's
delve
up to
into
you.
that.
You can either fill them now, or I can just put a placeholder and say TBD on
You
it
can
if,
put me
if
in
you wanted to
18,
wait.
if you can TB, if
Want it?
nobody else
Okay.
wants to entertain that now and wait till the time when we have time. Okay, and then number 19, I know Commissioner Kramer is deep involved in that, and I would assist her with that. If anybody else is interested in plastic bags, there's an opening.
So even though we're deprioritizing these, they're going to stay on the work plan.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll show them in kind of a separate table at the bottom. So they'll still technically be on the work plan. They'll just be a lower tier. Yeah, and that follows other commissions' protocols on how they've been managing their work plans as well.
So work can still happen amongst us, and even create an agenda report that's ready to go and streamline some staff time. During below the active period for staff, we can get things as ready as we think we can. So there's still work that can be done on both of those, 18 and 19. So, all right, so that's stay just 2 for now on 19.
Okay.
Okay.
I just wanted to note, it sounded like I heard 4 people who are interested in item 17. So Wick, Bruner, Switzler, and O'Connor. So if that could be reduced to 3, that's what we would need.
I'm not,
So your call.
Commissioner Switzler, yeah. if
You're
you-
on 18 and 19, so want me to take 17?
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay, perfect.
I'll stay quiet then.
Okay.
And if Novi or whatever want to be on it, they can ask them next.
Okay.
We can always change it next week. too.
Sounds perfect.
And if you want, I can read back what I heard as,
For the motion,
yeah.
all right, I make a motion to whatever Crystal's about ready
To-
to tell us.
To add Commissioner Wick to the subcommittee for item number 6, to change project number 12 to a staff level time of medium, to add Commissioners Wick, Brunner, and Switzler to project number 17, to add O'Connor to project 18, and also O'Connor to 19.
All right, the motion's been made as stated, all in second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Right. Future work plan passes. Next, okay, any updates of interest from any commissioners? I had just a couple of notes here. It's May is Bike Month. May 16th is Bike Day. And I think we mentioned Cyclovia is
The 19th, right?
19th? That's right, yeah, the 19th. One other quick little thing that popped out today is we are a liaison to the Encinitas Chamber of Commerce with their Sustainability Committee, and they were just recognized out of 7,400 chambers in the United States, only 700 have such an active green sustainability committee. And so there was some recognition for their doing that, and then also being involved in a green business network, which is trying to get all of our businesses to be accredited by using better products and better equipment and solar and those kind of things. So that was nice to see them getting recognized. And then the 18th at Moonlight Beach from 9 to 11 is a beach cleanup. Anybody can come down and help out.
Which date, May 19th?
The 18th of May will be the Surfrider Beach cleanup at Moonlight, 9 to 11. That's all the updates I had. Any others?
Yes, and on May 18th is the battery collection, old battery collection, as well as a shred event in the parking lot here at City Hall from 9 to noon on May 18th.
And then we were trying to decide, we were discussing, did Solana Center get the contract again to be a battery drop-off location in the city?
Not that I've heard as of yet. I could check with the staff at Public Works and see what the status is of that.
Right, thank
for
you. No other updates? Then number 11 is any future commissioner-initiated agenda items? Hearing none, I guess last is an adjournment. So all in favor of adjourning the meeting? Aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone, for helping me get through that.